Welcome to the Entertainment Collective Podcast, your one-stop resource for insights to working in the entertainment industry. I'm Jonathan Pushkar.
And I'm Dallas Jack.
So we're here with Geoff Cantor today of Daredevil fame and so many other great projects. And it's really great to have you. How are you, Geoff?
I'm really good. It's really great to be here. Even though, I'm here. I'm virtually here, but I'm really
doing it remote today.
Yeah, I'm just really here. So it's good to be with you virtually.
Actually, all three of us are in different time zones, which is super interesting.
It's true. I got up early for this, man.
Where are you?
So I'm
in Nashville.
Yeah, you're in Nashville right now. I'm over on the West Coast, over like 30 minutes from the Canadian border right now.
Oh, beauty there, eh?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, yeah. I love it there. Oh, sure. Is that where you're from?
What was that?
Are you from up there in the Great Northwest?
I am. So Seattle area is originally where I'm from. Where was it that you were from?
Well, New Jersey, basically.
Okay.
Born in California, but we left when I was 4.
So you're a Jersey boy.
Yeah, that's pretty accurate.
So let's talk about that. Moving from California at a young age, basically growing up in New Jersey. Have you been acting your whole life? Did you know that's what you always wanted to do? And how did New Jersey affect your career?
Well, so the California thing was in the Air Force. So it's California, a little bit of Texas, Philadelphia, because he was a doctor, Boston, then Southern New Jersey. So Northern New Jersey since 3rd grade. And I don't know if it would be accurate to say that I always wanted to be an actor. I always was doing it, but that was sort of, instead of sports, like I wasn't a big sports kid growing up. Like we would listen to show tunes, we would go see theater. My dad was in community theater. My mom did some community theater. They were active in the community. Dad's a doctor. Mom was a community activist, really. She worked with some various nonprofits. And but I was introduced to the art form really early. You know, I mean, when I was 7 years old, I wrote and directed my first adaptation of a movie. I did an adaptation of the Time Machine at summer camp. But I was in choir and I did the school plays. But I was always like, I was never doing it professionally. It was like when I was in grade school, I did the high school plays. When I was in high school, I did community theater. When I was in college, I did summer stock. But until I was probably a sophomore in college, I thought I was going to be a lawyer. So I was doing it, but that was my hobby. That was my sport. I played a little tennis and a little soccer, but I was not the football, baseball guy. And, I saw my first Broadway show was Fiddler on the Roof when I was in 3rd grade. Mm-hmm. So, that was what we did as a family culturally. But I thought I was going to be a lawyer. And then I was doing West Side Story at Amherst, and a guy named Len Berkman, who's the head of the drama department at Smith, saw my performance and sent me a letter. He actually saw me backstage afterwards, but he sent me a letter, handed me a letter. There was 3 pages of handwritten sort of discourse on my work. That really sort of shocked me. No one had ever spoken about my work with such clarity and insight. He used terms that were foreign to me, right? I did summer stock after my freshman year at Amherst, but it wasn't until I did West Side Story that sort of there was the big shift from thinking I'm really good at something that's a good hobby to something that is extremely fulfilling and is really what I should pursue. It was sophomore year in college with West Side Story and Len Berkman. And then I went to a liberal arts school. Amherst was a liberal arts college. So I took all sorts of courses, and all of it fed the intuitive sense of being a constant student, which is what an actor really is, right? You're always learning about things. And liberal arts education was perfect for that. And then I did a semester at the Eugene O'Neill Theater Center called NTI, and did all of my requirements for my drama major in one semester. It was 14 weeks, 10 and a half hours of class a day, except Sundays was 6 hours of class.
Wow.
It was very intense. It was like a boot camp. So that was when I realized I could handle it. Right. So I knew I really wanted to do it. then I knew it was going to be something I'd pursue as a career, maybe as a major at least. And then NTI sort of solidified for me that I could handle the rigors, because it's hard, and it kind of sucks in a way, in that it's all consuming. The payoff sometimes takes a very long time, but it's extremely fulfilling to do. And then I went to drama school in England, and actually lived in England over a 6-year period. I lived there for about 4.5 years.
Wow. Why did you choose England?
So when I was at the O'Neill, one of our teachers was kind of Mars Karnofsky. Mars Karnofsky had been with the group theater, contemporary of Stella Adler and Uta Hagen and Lee Strasberg, that whole group. And they were the group theater. And I was very good. I'd gotten to a point where I was very good at bringing myself to the role. But what intrigued me was what some of my favorite actors were able to do, and a lot of them were English actors. And that was really transform themselves and still maintain a sort of fully committed and realized character. So what the method, so this is for the students out there. So what the method was meant to do was, the theater had become very presentational. Stanislavski's idea was, what if we can fill that up and make that more substantive, and move the audience in a way that is not just entertainment. And so that's what the initial intent of Stanislavski's method was. And the members of the group theater met with him, and they all sort of brought back Meisner. They all brought back their own sort of interpretation of what that meant. But it was all about sort of getting in tune with who you are and applying that to the work you're doing. What happened in the United States, I think, is it went a little too far. And so you now have the method as the only way to approach. It's always got to come from the inside out. But if you really look at the origins of the method, it was a response to this sort of presentational style of theater. That said, working with Morris, I had access to being me. I'm pretty good at being me, and being me publicly. But every part isn't you, right? So if you do a role, if you only can do things that are very close to you, you're really limiting yourself. And I like the idea of having a range, of being able to do a broad range of characters. And in England, if you look at actors like Peter Sellers and Peter Ustinov and Laurence Olivier and Alec Guinness and Anthony Hopkins and Richard Harris, you're looking at the women, Judi Dench. I mean, you're looking at an approach to acting that allows any access. So it could be from the outside or it could be from the inside. It doesn't really matter. You do what's appropriate for the role. And so I found that we had 2 teachers at NTI from England. They're from the Bristol Old Vic Theatre School. And they basically told me that I was in. Bristol Old Vic's a very good school. It's in Bristol. It's not in London. And they said I was in, because they ran the auditions. They said if I could go to any school in England, I should go to Central. So having worked with Morris and already gotten as far as no one's going to teach me better about the American style, if you will, method than Morris. I already had that. 6 to 7 hours of class a week for 14 weeks. And I can't top that. But what I lacked was access to being able to do roles that were a little bit different. And so these 2 teachers, Rudy Shelley and Lynn Britt, convinced me that going to England would be a good idea, and that if I got into any school, it should be Central. If I could go to any school in England, it should be Central. So here are 2 teachers from one drama school saying you should go to a different drama school. So I applied to Central, RADA, and Lambda. I was already in at Bristol. Central said yes, so that's where I went. And if you look, it's a little hard, but if you were to look at my range of work, there are some roles that are very much not what you'd expect.
Yeah.
And What's the first one that comes to mind like that?
Raul. Raul is a gay Latino receptionist in a movie called One Last Thing. That's pretty over there. You can't see the hand. That's pretty over there.
It's not even on the screen.
No, it's not really on the screen. It's
not in the bands.
No. So I played a number of gay roles. I played a Pakistani. I played in Maniac. I don't know if you saw Maniac, but Frank was, not the usual Geoffrey who you see. And so, on stage also there's been a bit of a range. So I attribute that to the work I did in England. Because you can't judge, right? So as an actor, you can't judge the role. So for instance, if somebody wanted me to play Hitler, it'd be a stretch, but one couldn't play him as an evil person. You can't play evil. I know Hitler's a challenging person to bring up, but since I'm Jewish, I'm allowed to. You have to find somehow what it was behind him that would have motivated the terrible choices he made and the destruction he wrought. But you cannot judge him. You can't do him and judge him at the same time, because then you're watching yourself work, and that will ruin whatever chance you have of being truthful.
So talk to me a little bit about that, which you've gone into just a touch here, is the building of the personas. Is there like some sheet you fill out, or like how do you put yourself into the character?
I don't know that that's a bad idea, to be honest. I don't know if objectifying it to that extent is a bad idea. What I do with my students, and again, because it's something I do, is I draw a picture of the character. I remember at drama school, one of our teachers talking about this image. Michel Saint-Denis, who was this, I think is sort of where Central came from, is a French teacher. Central's been around for years. Laurence Olivier studied there. Judi Dench studied there. But I remember somebody expressing this image to me, and they attributed it to Michel Saint-Denis. And the image is that there's a mirror pretty far away from you. And you imagine the character in that mirror. You imagine the person, what they're wearing, how they walk, what their hairstyle is. And you take a walk towards the mirror. So the image you have in the mirror is walking towards you. You're walking towards it. And you'll never fully cross over. But the dance sort of begins, right? And you've gotten really, really close to that mirror. And there's little to distinguish the two of you. And the dance begins where you start playing in that space. And that, for me, that image in terms of the process you have was really valuable, because I understood it intuitively, but also it was an active thing I could do. But I would start by drawing. I'm not a great artist, but I would draw the person. So I have my students do the same thing. They either draw them, or they go on the internet, they find adjectives to objectively describe the person, so that they start to get into the head. But all you're doing as an actor really is you're a behaviorist. So all that acting is the speaking of a thought process, right? So when you're saying lines, you're just sharing a thought process. So your job as an actor simply is to justify the thought process, and then engage in that thought process in action, right? So that's your job. So whatever way you have to get into that, that's the goal. So the first step is really looking at the script. This isn't what I thought this podcast was going to be about. Looking at the script, breaking down the text to really understand what's happening. Find all the clues you can about the character in the text. And then your job is to then incorporate that into who you are. So if you're really close, some people find that really hard. Some people find it, if the character is very much like them, they find that actually more difficult to do because you can't separate yourself. It's like if you're in a relationship and you honestly, objectively see what the problem is, you still can't tell that person that you're in a relationship with what the problem is, can you? You can't. They can't hear it. You can't say it the right way. The same thing is when you're working on a character. If they're really, really close to you, it almost inhibits you from being able to fully go there because you don't have any distance. And so sometimes distance helps people.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Very psychological.
Very much so. So let's talk about getting work. Of course, all of the acting, traditionalist stuff is amazing, but how do you actually go out into the world and find your jobs? Talk about that process a little bit.
So the good news is there's more work than ever before in the history of the business, with streaming and with the way they're doing commercials. There really is more entertainment. There's more quantity than ever before. And I don't think there's bad quality either. I mean, God bless Netflix for me. The Marvel Universe is, but not just Marvel. I mean, I did House of Cards. I did Maniac. There's some very interesting stuff happening there. I think there's a sort of a creative bonanza for directors and creators because they have much more access to distribution.
Sure.
It's great news for actors. What that means is that you have more opportunity and more of a chance of getting into something. Just more people are needed now than ever before. But the basics are the same. You can't suck. Some people suck and are successful, but you can't expect, yeah, I suck, but I'll still be successful, right? So your expectation should be you can't suck. You got to do your work. You really do have to have some representation. It's very, very hard to do it on your own. Headshots, you have to have headshots, but that's not the most vital thing. You have to have a reel now, which when I was coming up, you never had to have, right? It didn't even exist. Now it's a vital calling card. Getting a reel, if you don't have any real experience, got it. Is challenging, right? Like there are these people who are saying, come to me, we're going to write some scenes for you, and we're going to put you down on film, and you can use that for your reel. They're going to know. They're going to know that's not something, right? They're going to know that's not something. At the same time, if you have nothing else, that it still might be a thing to do. I have a challenge around that. I also have a challenge. There are casting directors and agents who do these classes in the city, and here in New York, I'm sure they do in California. It's a bit of a pay for play. I used to have a real challenge with that because I felt it was a conflict of interest. Casting directors, their job is to see actors. It didn't cost the actors anything. That said, there's some actors who don't have access, right? If you don't have an agent, if you're not getting into the room, and the only way you can see this person is to pay $25 for their time, you know what? So I've shifted a little bit on that. So I think there's more avenues of approach than there ever have been before. But the biggest problem I think still exists, especially in the United States, is that people focus on the medium, right? So they take an acting for camera, they take a voice acting class, because the actors themselves are not thinking of themselves as professionals, right? It's a profession. And the actors who are most successful, in my opinion, are still the ones who get some training for real, and who approach it as a profession, do everything they have to do to actually pursue the business, but also pursue the art.
Yeah.
You have no control over the business. You only have control over how you are in the art. But the better you are as an artist, the better chances you're going to have at somebody, at there being some traction when you do get out there, whatever avenue you approach. You know, I mean, if somebody's in Nashville and they want to be an actor, if there's not a film being done in Nashville, get the fuck out of Nashville. Mm-hmm. You know, like if there's nothing to do there, there's nothing to do there. So I guess the key advice is you got to go where there's work being done. You cannot live in North Dakota and send out tapes and think that you're going to get a job in Hollywood. That's unrealistic.
Yeah. So be in a hub for acting.
Yeah, you gotta be at least nearby, and you gotta be engaged. You gotta be engaged for sure.
Yeah.
How common is it that you have to travel for work? I know that a lot of the shows you've done have been in the New York or tri-state area thereof, but do you travel often for work?
I used to travel a lot more. I mean, I was in Pittsburgh doing a miniseries in 2007. I did, I just was just in Pittsburgh. Hail Caesar was in California. I've done some commercials in California. I've done work up in Boston. But most of the stuff I've done, certainly the TV I've done, has almost all been in New York. So I don't mind the travel, but I haven't had to travel that much. I mean, I did a commercial for the Kleenex campaign, which was an extraordinary amount of travel. That was all the time we were traveling all over the country. But yeah, most of the TV and film that I've done is here in New York.
So when people think actors, a lot of times they're going to think Hollywood, LA kind of thing. What's the difference there? Why do you say New York over LA specifically?
That's a good question. Hollywood is, and LA is, unfortunately a town of one industry.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a little bit, and I know someone's going to be really mad at me for saying it, but I sort of think of it like I think of Long Island, right? Long Island is only one way in and there's only one way out, and it's a little bit incestuous. So it's like this, it's like inbreeding of behavior. It's behavioral inbreeding. So the parts of Long, and I'm using Long Island just because it's an easy target, but New Jersey's just as bad, right? So there's this cultural inbreeding, this behavioral inbreeding, where even bad habits, there's still the one-upmanship. And the problem with California, with LA especially, is it's a one-trick pony to some extent. It's a one industry town. And so without having the opportunity to have other experiences or to engage with people who are not in the industry, right? To have a chance meeting with somebody who's not in the industry, it is, I think, helps keep people a little more well-rounded. You're surrounded by things that are not just our industry.
Mm.
New York is not about my industry. There's a lot about my industry in it, but it's not about the industry. And I think it makes for a more well-rounded life experience. If somebody wanted me to move to California for a job, in a minute. I mean, it's beautiful. And if you're working in California, it's great. I mean, it's great. You know, because it's a one industry town, everything is geared for your convenience, and it's fantastic that way. So I have representation in California. My manager's in California, Bohemia. My agent is in California, Stone Manor Solners, although they're changing their name. I don't know what it is yet. But my management also has an office here in New York. My agent's in New York. And also, things have changed so significantly. There's things being shot all over this country in a way that never happened before. There's stuff in Atlanta. There's stuff in Florida. There's stuff in New Orleans. There's stuff in Texas. There's stuff in certainly in California. Stuff in Canada. And because you can send a tape, so I mean, we're right now, we're all over the country right now. If I wanted to send a tape to California, I can do it in a day, you know. And considering, and you also have to realize, so what's the casting director? The casting director may see you in person, but the director's not. The director's only going to see a tape anyway, 9 times out of 10, except for the callback, right? So if you get to the producer's room and everybody's there, that's great. I prefer that. I like having that interaction. But for some projects, whether I was in LA or New York, they're going to see the same product. They're still going to just see me on tape. And so because that wasn't an option before, right? You would do something on tape, you'd have to send the tape, right?
Yeah.
And if it was going to California, it wouldn't get there till the auditions were over. Now they can get it that day. So the need to be in California, even for the stuff that's there, is diminished somewhat. That said, all the writer rooms are still, not all of them, most of the writer rooms are still in California.
Sure.
So all the Marvel stuff that was here, they're still being written in California. Damages is California. Maniac, the writer, was here, which is great. Patrick Somerville was here, but he was also writing it with Carrie. So they were here in New York. I mean, they were editing it in New York. But the Qom Brothers were doing all their ADR in New York. And when I did ADR for Hail Caesar, you know, they were bringing people in. So we have unlimited minutes. We were just
got a notification.
I'm so excited. I don't have unlimited minutes. I have about 25 minutes left.
All right, cool. So let's talk about the Qom Brothers and Hail Caesar. Talk about that project. How did that come across?
Well, so I had an audition for, was it The Serious Man? Remember the Qom Brothers, The Serious Man? So I had 2 auditions, one for the lead and one for the brother, and I didn't get either role, which of course was very disappointing. But it was great. You know, I got a call back. It was the Qom Brothers. It's great. It's great. I then auditioned for Ethan. I think he was doing a play at the Atlantic, and that I didn't get it. You know, whatever. They're the Qom Brothers. A lot of people want to be in their stuff. So the audition for Hail Caesar came up when I was still doing Daredevil. I had my beard, and I knew the character didn't have a beard. I showed them a picture of me without a beard, but I went in for the first audition, and then at the callback, every Jewish New York actor I knew was there. Other actors were there too, but really good actors. Danny Burstein, Peter Jacobson, the whole range of actors who I knew and like a lot. These guys are great.
Yeah.
I go in the room. Have you seen it?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So I did it. That's what I did. And they laughed. And they said it was nice to meet. I said, we actually met before. I said I didn't have a beard. And they're like, oh. So I guess they may have remembered it. And then, next thing I know, I'm flying myself out. So I had to fly myself out. I got paid as a local hire. Luckily, I had air miles and a place to stay. But people pay to be in Qom Brothers movies. So it was great.
So no kidding. You had to pay somewhat out of pocket to be a part of that.
I did. Well,
Wow.
I didn't, again, because, right. So I had to, you had to be hired as local talent, and I got scale. So I got, very little money, but it really was not about the money. It was great to do. I loved it. The script was that was me, my computer dinging. The script was fantastic. And, look who I got to work with, Josh Brolin, Jonah Hill, Scarlett Johansson, Qom Brothers. A good couple of days.
Incredible.
Yeah.
It was good. Yeah.
So that's interesting to talk about, the fact that, you had to look at it and it was kind of an equity builder. It wasn't, I'm taking this Qom Brothers gig to make a big payday. It's a resume builder and things like that. That's interesting.
And that's a very good point. So a lot of the work you need to be willing to take is exactly that. And you don't know what will impact what. You really don't. So I just did a movie where I was just doing this movie, Pickle. I think it's the Untitled Pickle Project. I don't know that the name is Pickle, but with where I played Seth Rogen's dad. I did an audition for it. They just offered it to me. It was really great. But again, and they flew me out, and they housed me, and they fed me. But I still only got paid scale. But of course you do that movie. Like, why wouldn't you do that movie?
Right.
Wizard of Lies, I got scale. It was one day. It was me and Robert De Niro. Of course you're going to take that movie.
Yeah.
Right?
So no-brainer.
It's a no-brainer. And you really don't know. It's a matrix, right? It's a Venn diagram of things that go into the decision-making process as to whether or not you'll take a job. One is, do you like the script? And this is in no particular order. Do you like the script? Are the people attached to it people you want to work with? Is it timely? Right? Is it something people are going to watch? And is there any real downside? Right? So if you put those pieces together, you're always there's always an interesting balance, right? So I did a movie called 411. It was a short, independent. F. Murray Abraham was in it, but he was just on the phone. But I was the star. So I did that because I was the star. Mm-hmm. It didn't pay badly. Paid okay. It was still scale, but it was SAG scale for an independent short. It's not bad. I'll take it. I mean, I'll act for nothing. So acting for little money is really fun.
Yeah.
But I was the star. I did another thing called Carl Manhair Postal Inspector. I was the star. So that was an important bit of data. I mean, that paid like $125 a day, but I was the lead in it. You don't know where things are going to go. So you're constantly weighing these decisions based on that entire, as I said, that Venn diagram, that matrix of impactful, what's the data, right? So it all fits into, and then you just start to figure out, do I have the time? Can I afford to do it? Is there anything else going on? What are the conflicts? So I I tend to, my gut is to say yes and then think about it rather than say no and think about it.
I think there's this massive misconception about you see an actor on TV and instantly you think, oh, they must be a billionaire. Like they must be paid so much to be up on that screen kind of thing. Talk to me about the work that you're talking about here. You're saying it takes so much work for so little pay just to get into the industry to be doing what you're doing. What does it take to get to that level of stardom, essentially?
I don't know that every path is the same, right? So the truth of the matter is there's some very famous people who are famous because they were attached to famous people. Their parents were famous, their uncles were famous, their aunts were famous, and they don't suck, right? So that happens. And I mean, there are people who I didn't even realize their parents or their aunts and uncles were famous people, and that's how they got into the industry. So that's one way. Then you have people who are extremely good looking, who have extraordinary, have extraordinary talents that make them unique, really unique. Then you have people who just show up in a sleeper that wins awards. So there's all different those. If you look at sort of this cloud of people, these sort of little solar flares, for whatever reason, will happen, right? Then right now there's this whole new thing of influencers, right? You have shows like American Idol and America's Got Talent. You have all these shows that are pushing the sort of crowdsourcing of fame. It clearly isn't me, right? My way has been nice Jewish boy, go to college, go to drama school. I was a social worker for 3 years, and it's been doing this, which is great. Sometimes it's this, sometimes it's this, but if you look at the overall, I think it's been pretty consistent. And every year I do a little more interesting work. It's a little more work. Financially, it's been up and down because I was doing a lot of commercials. I made a lot more money. I mean, there was a time when I had 7 commercials running at once. So I only had a little bit of TV and film, but I had a lot of commercials. That made a lot of money. So I've done everything you can do as an actor. I've done print work. I've done audiobooks. I've done web series. I've done short films. I've done large films. I've done independent films. I've done TV shows. I've done Netflix series. There's nothing I haven't done. I direct a little bit. I teach a ton, and I do some creative consulting because I'm a creative. I have, as John can attest, I'm a creative head. That's where my head is at. And I think of all the things I do, I think I do acting probably better than the rest of the creative endeavors that I do because I've been doing that the longest. And it's the most involving. But it's all good. But the idea of becoming famous was never really a goal. My goal was to be able to afford to live.
Yeah, that's incredibly noble.
Yeah, I mean, that's been my goal. To afford to live.
Yeah. So, in most recent events, Daredevil season 3, it's the last season. We are all in tears about it. Talk to us about the news there. How was it broke to you?
So I was doing a play reading at the time, where I got to play 4 different characters in this reading.
Wow.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. And I got a text from Deborah Ann Wall saying, I know you probably heard, I'm so sorry, it's so sad. I'm sure we'll see each other again. I'm like, what? So
You're fired at that point.
So we spoke after the reading. She explained to me, what had happened. And she and I had some conversations earlier on. After Iron Fist was canceled, then Luke Cage was canceled. She and I were speaking. We're friends, so we were talking, and then Iger announced that in 2020, all Disney stuff, which includes all Marvel stuff, will be on the Disney streaming network. Well, once he said that, we hadn't started shooting Daredevil. To shoot something in 2019, it's not going to get onto Netflix till the end of 2019 at the earliest, right? Let's say we started shooting it in January. We're not going to be done. They're not going to have anything to put on the air until October, earliest. So if you're only going to have, whether it's the beginning of 2020 or the end of 2020, you're only going to have a year to have the newest expensive, Daredevil. So what I understood was Netflix wanted a little more control to make sure that relationship, that they could probably hang on to that content longer than the 2020 deadline. This is my guess. My guess is that Marvel said no, and that was it.
Wow.
That was it. Because what I did know is that they had already basically mapped out 13 episodes of Luke Cage, right? And then Netflix new protocol was only 10 episodes instead of 13. So they wanted the writers' room to reconvene, and Marvel's like, oh, okay, and we're going to split the costs, and Netflix says, no, you have to pay for it. Marvel said, no, you have to pay for it. So I think that's what happened there.
Intention there.
Yeah, and so you're looking at Marvel flexing its muscle a little bit, not Marvel, but Disney saying, we're going to have our own streaming network. And I think there's a bigger picture here, of course. Paramount's going to have their own streaming network. Why on earth, if you're a studio, would you pay Netflix to be your archivist?
Yeah.
At this point, and let Netflix reap all the benefits of that. So I think what happened is the Marvel Universe got what they needed from Netflix, which was non-Marvel heads having access to Marvel shows, and Marvel showing them were more than comic books and Disney, right? Disney saying these are substantive shows that have real value as entertainment. And I think they got a lot of new fans because they were on Netflix. Netflix got every Marvel head on the planet to sign up for Netflix. But that happened in the first 2 years. And I think that and this is, again, just my theory, the actual benefit to either Netflix or Marvel was already used up, right? The big honeymoon had happened. Everything else is ancillary benefit, but you're not going to get more viewers. You're not going to get more fans by having more seasons, right? The fans are the fans. The Netflix viewers are the Netflix viewers. Nobody really there's no more win to make it worth a fight, I guess, and that's just my theory.
Yeah. Now, is there a possibility that we're going to see Ellison popping up anywhere else in the market?
So well played. So what I want to happen, and your viewers and listeners, maybe you guys can make this happen. I right now there is still a New York Bulletin website. So if you go to newyorkbulletin.com, and it's clearly run by the Marvel people, and there's headlines, essentially with my newspaper, and so you can read this stuff online. And what I want to pitch to them, and I have to figure out a way to do this, but what I want to pitch to them is the idea that Ellison, like all the viewers, is wondering where all the heroes have gone, and is on a deductive mission to find them, because Hell's Kitchen is going to hell, and things are really bad. They're getting worse, and he was always on the outskirts of knowing that he knew Daredevil. He knows that all these characters exist, right? I know that all these characters exist, but all of a sudden they're no longer saving the day. They're no longer around. They're no longer wreaking havoc, but also doing good deeds. And so life without the superheroes, it'd be really fun to investigate that from Ellison's standpoint as a bridge from the Netflix Marvel shows to when Disney owns them outright. So that's what I want to see happen.
Here's my thought, right? We know that at the end of Avengers Infinity War, spoilers, Thanos gets the stones and snaps and people just start disappearing. I think that this Ellison show would be super cool if it followed Ellison and, all of these superheroes disappeared, Daredevil, Jessica Jones, what have you. And so you're following Ellison from like the average person's standpoint of like, where did these people go? And it would be a really neat way to like almost explore like a subgenre of the movies, and it ties everything together.
Genius. It's
Yep.
genius. There's a book, I think it's called The Defenders, that I have somewhere. It's a graphic novel of a series of comics that are all from Ellison's standpoint.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's somebody turned me on to that at a Comic-Con, and the thing is, all of the superheroes exist. So it's the flip side of that. So if I know all the superheroes exist, then I would also know that they no longer exist, and where are they is curious.
Right.
And would also actually bridge the Defenders and the Avengers world. It would be an interesting bridge for those two worlds. If I'm a good investigative journalist, which of course I am,
Right.
the path of starting off locally and realizing this is actually a global problem.
Yeah.
It'd be great. It'd be great. And they could do them as webisodes that would just live on the website, like 4-minute little pieces.
It would be cool. It could almost be like, filmed on an iPhone, like found footage, kind of like, all right, I'm looking, blah, blah, blah. It could be a really neat concept.
Great.
And Marvel has done stuff like that too, with like doing like news interviews, like in universe and stuff. It would be so cool.
Yeah. So that's I'm hopefully going to meet with them, set up a lunch in the new year was what I was promised. And I'll pitch it. Who knows what, the worst thing that can happen is they say no.
Yeah.
I think it should be called Ellison Saves the Universe.
I think it should be called Ellison.
Just Ellison.
The Ellison Chronicles.
There we go.
Incredible.
I love it.
So to wrap up here, tell us about the future for you. What's going on in the new year? What does life look like for Geoff Cantor?
I don't know. Like every other actor on the planet, I'm just looking for work now. I have some non-acting stuff, still entertainment based. Somebody asked me to work with them on a short film to direct it, so I might be doing that. Another friend of mine who is a colorist has an amazing idea. His brother is a graphic artist. I can't say any more about it than that. But they, I met them through another colleague, and they sort of want me to be not quite an Ellison character, but a similar, not in the news media, but that sort of anchored middle-aged guy to sort of anchor the people who do a lot more spinning. And so we may be shooting the trailer for that this spring in England. And we were talking about that since season 2 of Daredevil. It's a very long process that they're working on, but they've been moving. They know a lot of people in the post-production world, so they've been doing a lot of CGI and creating this universe that is not Marvel at all, but still has a comic book feel to it. What I think makes it unique is there's a chance it would be more international. And I think, especially now that Netflix is losing all of Marvel, initially I'd said they're already saturated. You're not going to get into Netflix. You should avoid Netflix. You should actually find somebody not Netflix who's looking for this kind of programming. That said, now that Netflix has lost all this Marvel stuff, it might be a good place for them to go. So I'm in a little bit on the creative side, but also as an actor. So that's, if that happens, that'd be very exciting. That'd be great. And,
That's awesome.
and I'll just keep auditioning. I mean, I just did the show Pickle, the Pickle Project. So I don't know when that's coming out, probably 2020.
Sure.
So, that's it.
That's fantastic. Yeah.
My life. And hopefully a little more theater this year. I'd like to do a little more theater this year.
Oh, cool.
Well, always on the up and up. So as we kind of wrap up here, do you have any departing words for somebody that is interested in getting into acting in 2019? What would you say to them?
Go to college, get a good liberal arts education, and then go to conservatory afterwards. It is really straight up the best thing to do.
Wow.
For anybody. It builds. You have to have enough life experience to bring something to the work. You have to have enough knowledge to be able to accurately analyze the text. And you then need to be old enough to be able to appreciate what the conservatory will give you and to be able to actually do that work. You have to have a certain level of maturity. But also provides you the social universe that you need, because you need a support system. I've been very lucky. My family, my wife, my kids, my parents have been very supportive, and people like you. And I have people in my corner who just want to be in my corner. And that's vital. But having a group of actors that you've worked with at school is also key, because that's where those creative juices bubble, And if you look at NYU kids have their space, Juilliard kids have their space, Yale kids have all these pods of people who have experienced their learning time together, create these network of actors that it pays off. So that's my gift.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Where can people reach you if they want to get in touch?
So I am Mr. G. Cantor on Instagram. I'm Jeff Cantor on Twitter. My Facebook is Geoffrey Cantor, actor, I guess. And geoffreycantor.com is my website. I also have my little band, Bobby and the Israelites. You can find them on YouTube and SoundCloud. And a nonprofit that I work for, rethinktheconversation.org, is also something that's near and dear to me. You can look that up. It deals with issues that are not about acting.
Great.
Awesome. Cool. Well, Jeff, this has been such a treat. Thanks for sitting down with us, even virtually. Give you a virtual fist bump.
Of course. And also, if you need to get in touch with me, you can also reach out to Jonathan. He knows how to get me.
Absolutely. Cool. Well, Jeff, this has been such a treat. Thank you so much. And we'll see you again soon.
Yeah. All right, man. Take care.
Thank you so much.
See ya.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Entertainment Collective Podcast. Be sure to subscribe, write a review, and follow us on social media. We hope that what you learned today will bring you one step closer to meeting your goals in the entertainment industry.